Welcome to the show. Today, we're joined by Teresa Bassett, CEO of the Diamond Group, a leader in helping professional service firms attract high-value clients, and she helps them scale their businesses. With over $550 million in marketing, advertising, and personal development transactions, she is a proven expert in creating momentum and driving growth. As a speaker and author of the books, The Rebounding Revolution, A New Day, A New Way, and Up Level, Sprint Your Way to the Next Level in Your Life and Business, Teresa shares practical strategies to help businesses thrive, even in uncertain times. Today, she's here to reveal how to build momentum and recession-proof your business. Teresa, welcome to the show.
Oh my gosh, Mason, thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me here. You're amazing.
It's my pleasure. So if you don't mind, I'm going to jump right into it. I'm excited about this. I've been looking forward to it ever since I put this on the calendar. So I know that you've helped businesses generate fortunes when it comes to transactions. Can you provide some examples of common denominators in businesses that you've seen build momentum regardless of what was going on in their economy?
Yeah, that's such a great question. And I know that you're asking that question because it's very timely, right? In this day and age. And of course, I talk to business owners every day that are like, they're watching the news, they're watching the stock index, and it can be distracting at the very least, but also somewhat discouraging sometimes because you can feel like all these outside factors are not necessarily pulling for you.
Well, I'll tell you what, I will give you bonus cool points if you can provide some excuse-proof answers if you've got some.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I believe in creating my own economy, number one. And so I focus 100% of my effort and my team's effort on it's a little bit of blinders on, right? Racehorses run faster because they've got blinders on and they have that lane crafted right in front of them. And so I truly believe that there is a lot of power in focus. And so, yes, of course, I want to have an awareness of the world around me. I'm not an ostrich with my head in the sand, but I don't want to make that define me. So some of the things, from a mindset piece that business owners can do is just create an incredible amount of belief and focus in what you're doing. Right. And some of those pieces are just honing in on the value you bring to the marketplace, really owning that positioning, that posture, and then putting your heart into that, right? I don't need to really worry about what's going on in the White House if what I'm worried about is happening right here in the world. I can influence and impact today. And that is the number one thing that I find most business owners just need help and encouragement in. It's like, just zero in on what's truly important and do what you can do today.
When you talk about doing what you can do today, there's a lot to that. A lot of times when I talk to folks about, hey, what do I do this in business or what do I do that in business? It's not only what do you do, but what do you not do?
Yeah.
And what is that focus? And belief is one thing, but two is really focusing on not only what you should be focused on, but also the stuff that's within your control.
Oh yeah, 100%. I was reading a story the other day and someone asked Michelangelo how he got the vision to sculpt David, the statue. And he was like, well, actually David was always in there. I just took away the bits that weren't him. And if you think about sculpture, I mean, that's exactly what you're doing is you're saying no to all the things that aren't in alignment to that impact, to that bottom line, to that value you bring to the marketplace, right? And so you're absolutely spot on. I mean, it's 100% about what you're saying no to as well as what you're saying yes to.
So what's a common mistake that business owners make when they're trying to grow during a downturn? And conversely, what's a common mistake business owners make when they're trying to grow during an upturn?
Yeah, great questions. I'm a big believer in zigging when others are zagging. And if
Tim Ferriss talks about that. He says
it's so huge.
If what you're doing isn't working, do the opposite.
Do the opposite. Well, and here's the thing, fortunes are made in recessions. So while the world around you is constricting because of fear or blind spots or the fear of the unknown or what's coming, the people who truly have the vision, who really gain market share, are the people who double down and push the gas pedal into the curve. When you're learning how to drive, it's counterintuitive. You come up on that curve and you're like, oh, I'm going to have more control of the vehicle if I back off the gas. But in reality, you have more control over the vehicle if you push into the gas pedal. And that actually gives you the ability to steer the car where you want it to go with even more precision. It's exactly the same way in business, Mason. Business owners I see constrict in fear of the unknown, thinking they have to conserve to be prepared for what's coming. But in reality, they're paying a huge opportunity cost for that. And the cost of inaction is much higher than the cost of action.
And there's less competition there too, because
Oh,
so many people,
100%.
if the general mindset of the business community is constrict, 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 and they're all focused, all that brain power, intellectual horsepower is focused on how do we succeed while we're constricting. And you're thinking the opposite. It's like, where are opportunities? Where do those opportunities lie? And how can I capture them? Then you have much less competition among those folks thinking that way, because there's fewer of them. And it gives you, I think it gives you a greater chance.
Well, that's exactly true. So if you think about that from a sales and marketing standpoint, instead of constricting your ad budget, for example, let's say you increase your ad budget 25%, while your competitors are decreasing their ad budget 25%. Well, now you're just getting in front of even more people. You're capturing even more market share and brand awareness, while your competitors are stepping back. You're charging forward. So I do think it's smart, of course, in changing times, you have to use healthy caution. You have to use a conservative approach to operational expenses. But at the same time, sales and marketing is not the place to cut back.
There was a book I read years ago, but one of the things that, and it was called the Clue Train Manifesto, and it talked about being authentic in communications, and it talked about how businesses become forgettable by being professional, and the content they put on their website is sterile, it's boring, and it's forgettable. And one of the points they made was in the book was they said it's risky to play it safe.
That's so
and I
good.
think that advice applies here in a lot of cases when you got to be bold. Fortune favors the bold.
I have said that 3 times today alone, Mason, because I see people, like you said, shrinking back. And when they do that, they constrict not just their businesses, but their personalities.
Yes.
Right. And to your point, here's an opportunity to actually assert your personality into the marketplace. Take a stand for the things that you truly believe in and are important to you, and the value that you bring to the marketplace. Like, you're in business because you have a product or a service that is helping somebody solve a problem that they have, or face an opportunity that they have, or grab an opportunity right in front of them. And so you should be bringing your personality to the table and voicing it louder, not stepping back.
Right.
Yeah.
But the advice in that book has never left me. It's risky to play it safe.
Yeah. And I think that again, back to that cost of inaction, I think people think they're playing it safe, but they're paying a much greater price for that playing it safe. The cost of inaction is huge, and it's harder to put a dollar value on. So what are you missing?
Indecision is a decision.
Yeah, exactly. So you're making a decision all the time. So what price are you paying for the things you're not doing, for the places you're not asserting yourself, for the ways that you're not showing up for yourself in your business? And I think that those opportunity costs have really high dollar values, but they're very easy to side burner. And we focus on just, the transactional, the cash in, cash out. And in reality, we're missing out on a lot of golden nuggets.
So how do you attract, or what's your advice about attracting high value clients? What would you call the biggest misconception about client acquisition today?
Yeah, that's a great point. The landscape for high value clients, I think, has changed a little bit. And I think people are slowing down in their decision making considered choices a little more carefully. And part of that has come out of the information age. We are inundated with marketing messages, with content. We're processing so much information. And so it used to be that people, after 7 touches of a message would take an action. And now it's over 21, 25 touches. And so you have to be a lot more thoughtful and considered in the way that you're journey mapping for your customers. And they really do need some time to get to know you. And so back to your point about the personality piece, having just sterile, dry marketing messaging, isn't probably going to grab them. Right. And I think one of the biggest pieces people miss out on is an opportunity to build trust in their content, right? People want to know, in this day of AI and smoke and mirrors and marketing messaging, like, what's real? What do you really stand for? What is true about you and this company that I'm potentially going to partner with? And I think that we need to use our educational marketing opportunities or our content pieces to build trust. I think what people miss out on in the client acquisition department is they forget that it's human to human. It might
Right.
be business to business, it might be business to consumer, but it's human to human in both of those cases.
I think I think one of the things that a lot of businesses are missing, and I can't remember what book I read this in either, but they talked about reversing the risk. It's not enough to eliminate it.
Yeah.
So if I propose doing business with you and I say, hey, here's what I can do to eliminate your risk. Okay, you might take a chance, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But what if I'm wrong? Then it goes back to what you're talking about, opportunity cost. Well, what did it cost you to find out? And chances are, if you find out that I can't deliver, even if it wasn't risky for you, you still wasted your time. And chances are you're probably going to be mad. And you're going to tell your friends, your neighbors, your clients, anybody on the internet who will listen forever in reviews, hey, this isn't good. I am a proponent of and firm believer in the power of a better than money back guarantee and reversing the risk. Like, look, if I can't do this for you, then not only will I eliminate the risk, but here's what I'll do to make it right.
I'll add even more value to your
It
process.
adds more value, it adds more trust, and it shortens long selling cycles. And I'm a fan of that.
I love that. I love that idea. That's a really smart framework for looking at it, Mason. I can bet that you've helped quite a person or two with that framework.
More than a few.
Yeah, more than a few. Yeah. Well, that's why you're so good at what you do.
What ideas, tips, or strategies do you have for businesses that are trying to increase their brand presence and visibility, but they don't want to spend a fortune? What kind of advice would you give for them?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. So in this day and age, I mean, of course, we're all in the publishing business. I think it used to be everyone selling, we're all in sales. And that's certainly true. But now, social media, publishing platforms are more democratized and open than ever. And so, and I think, I personally have struggled with, my screen time ratio and finding work-life blend in the midst of all of this technology, but it doesn't escape the fact that we should be using these tools. We can be using these tools to help people get to know us and our brands and really what we offer and help people solve real challenges that they're facing in their lives, provide them value through the content. So one of the ways people are missing out on opportunities is, to your point, they're shrinking back from the camera, right? They're shrinking back from the content because they're afraid that somebody won't like them, or they're afraid that they don't have, whatever. They're not the exact right social media profile type. They're not the Instagram friendly face, and they're missing out on a chance to be imperfectly perfect, right?
You and I share a very similar viewpoint there. I remember when I first started getting exposed to web video, and I had a mentor one time that said, excellent now is better than perfect never. And if you've got good content and you have ways to help people and businesses and you don't share it, I feel a moral obligation to share what I know with people who need it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to hang up over, I didn't look good on camera that day, or, not in my case, but my hair being out of place. But, literally, I've had people tell me, I can't use that video because my hair was out of place or I blinked too much. Like, no one cares. They're not paying attention to that. They're paying attention to the content that you're going to give them that's going to help them solve problems.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating to me how many people don't do that. And if you Google my stuff from probably 15 years ago, because I was an early adopter of getting on the internet with web video, some of it was awful. I'm embarrassed by it now, but I'm going to let it sit there because it is what it is, or it was what it was.
Right.
And I was able to get real-time feedback on the things that would make me better. I was willing to not be good and to look for ways to make constant improvement until it wasn't a horrible experience. But it took some bad experiences. But after seeing yourself on camera, you can say, I'm not using gestures enough, or I'm using too much gestures, or I'm speaking too quickly, or I'm throwing in too many you-knows and uh-hs. And that's instantly, the camera doesn't lie. So,
right, exactly. No, to your point, you have to be bad enough long enough to get good.
Amen. Yes.
Right. And I think, and I too, this has been a journey for me too. This is not a viewpoint that I arrived at overnight. And I'm like you, I think the turning point for me was just feeling like I'm almost lying by omission.
Yes.
If I don't share the value that I'm bringing to the marketplace. We're positioned to help a whole lot of small business owners in their businesses. And we're really bringing big, sales and marketing resources to small business America. And I feel a moral obligation to tell them about what we offer now, because I feel like, to your point, who needs what we have that we don't even know about? And maybe my voice is imperfect and my hair's out of place and I look like, I don't know, sure, I could lose 40 pounds. I could be more perfect. I could be whatever. But the right people are going to hear the right thing when it's the right time for them. And if I don't put it out there, I'm literally cutting them off from the opportunity for something that could be a game changer for them.
It's funny you say that, because I remember sitting across the desk from, his name's Alan Minster. He was the co-author of my first book. We wrote it in 1999 called Sales Utopia. And we were sitting at Applebee's. He took out a napkin and a pen and drew out a diagram and made a point that was incredibly beneficial to me in my career. I've never forgotten it. I could draw out today what he put on that page.
Yeah, I can tell. You probably even know what you were wearing that day.
And the thing is, I didn't care if it was a fancy PowerPoint presentation, or if it was in a seminar with 10,000 people in it, or if it was sitting on a table and it was written on a napkin at Applebee's. I don't care. What I care about is, does that idea and does that concept bring value to me? And the fact that he shared that with me made a huge impact on me personally and professionally in my career. And I'm thankful for that. So I would encourage anybody else, I'm sure we would probably comment on this. I would encourage anybody that is holding back because, I don't know if this is professional enough, or, I don't know if this is the right time, or if this is right. Share your stuff, man. Help people. And sometimes it's easier to sort than convince. People that get it are going to be attracted to what you're doing and why you're doing it. The people that don't and won't will be repelled. And I'm good either way.
I love that, Mason. There is so much power in what you just said. And I second that motion. Helping people get off the sidelines, right, in their business and put it out there so that they can help their perfect people is so powerful. Well, you're doing that. We're doing that. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think that's phenomenal.
What do you think are some common bottlenecks that keep businesses from scaling? I mean, and maybe what kind of workarounds do you often prescribe or suggest to those that are getting hung up on unnecessary bottlenecks?
Yeah, again, fantastic question. So research shows that only 9% of small businesses in America get over 7 figures in revenue. And only 5% of women-owned businesses in America. And yet small business, up to 250 employees is the SBA definition of a small business. We provide over 86% of the jobs in America. And some of the common bottlenecks, there's a plateau in business. I think just, 800,000 in revenue, getting over that 7-figure mark can be really tough for people. I see a bottleneck there all the time. And I myself have experienced that bottleneck. And what it really comes down to is there's a certain point in which the founder, has relied on their character, their charisma, their connections, their sales ability, whatever it is. And so they've sold enough goods and services to be successful to a certain point. And now their leadership ability has to really kick in, and they have to be willing to get out of their own way a little bit. And they really need to stop asking, how do I get this done? And they need to start asking, who do I partner with to help me get this done? And some of that comes down to really diversifying their sales and marketing efforts. Honestly, they have to stop relying on referrals and their network. And they have to create a system that doesn't rely on them in order to recreate and create sustainable sales and marketing efforts so that they can really get over that 7-figure hump and beyond. Once you get that system down, then it's just repeat and rinse and you can scale to the moon. But if you aren't willing to try something different to get a different result, you're going to get bottlenecked in that spot.
You know what? I will give you a real life example because we haven't talked about this, but my core business is helping companies with employee selection, engagement, and retention. I have a whole host of various skill, attitude, and personality-based assessment tools that employers utilize to identify high potential applicants and high risk applicants. And then once they identify the high reward, high potential applicants, how do you engage them, maximize their discretionary effort, and retain them? And I've worked with small family businesses all the way to companies the size of Purina Mills, Land O'Lakes, Miller Brewing, et cetera. And one of my bottlenecks in the spirit of transparency and openness was I always felt that I had to do it. I knew the business better than anybody else. I knew the assessments as well as anybody, except for maybe the industrial psychologists who developed them. But aside from that, I've been doing this for 30 years and I kept trying to teach distributors and other people around the country who worked with me on how to duplicate me. And there wasn't another me. But when you
Yeah.
talk about what the bottleneck was me. But instead of
Yeah.
embracing other people, I embraced technology. And what I did was I took best practices and I put them on video in modular video training to help companies. So now a small company with 50 employees who I might not have hopped on a plane and gone and spent time with their team.
Yeah.
They have access to the exact same tools, training, technologies, and systems that the big ones do. And the reality of it is the smaller businesses, i.e. companies up to 250 employees, need this stuff more than the big ones. IBM could hire 1,000 morons tomorrow and blend them in and no one would ever know. But if you've got a company with 50 employees and you screw up 5 hires or you keep 5 of the wrong people, that's 10% of your workforce. And those smaller companies are not getting access to this. But the cost of sales was so high doing it the old way that it was prohibitive. And the people that needed it the most weren't getting it. But I recognized that was a bottleneck. And I was willing to get out of my own
technology.
way and use technology to duplicate. And I've really tried to make myself unnecessary. So the point that the systems do the work for me and I can just spend my time working with the one-offs or the variations that come from that.
So great. That's such a great example. And that's so smart, Mason. And the fact that you had the self-awareness to see yourself as the bottleneck, I think that's half the battle, right? Like we as business owners, we have to see where we're creating the resistance to growth, where we're literally the kink in the garden hose, crimping the energy.
Absolutely.
In the business.
And I was so frustrated because I was trying to get other people to be me and they're not. I want other people to do what they do best and like to do most and to be their authentic self. And I had a business model that didn't have that under consideration. So I recognized it, I fixed it. And now those people can actually utilize the distributors that we've got can still utilize my training and my web-based tools.
So smart.
They can work with their clients and it's like, they get to be, I'll give you another, you're getting me riled up here. I'll tell this quick story and then we'll get back to you. But it was one time my son was very young, like infant, and he got sick and he went to the hospital and he was in the hospital for 3 days and nights. The bill was like $5,000 or whatever. Thank goodness for insurance. But anyway, I asked my wife, I said, we got a $5,000 bill, but how much time did he physically spend engaged with the doctor? I mean, we added up between 3 days and nights, maybe 40 minutes, 30 minutes.
Even based on. Yeah.
But he had 3 good meals a day. But I didn't see doctors preparing meals or delivering them. The room was clean, but I didn't see any doctors taking trash out or sweeping floors.
Yeah.
The beds were changed, but I didn't see any doctors changing linens. The hospital knew that they had to have their experts doing things that required their specific skill, knowledge, and ability. That's kind of how I felt when I laid out that business system. Like, I'm going to provide these tools so that a lot of the basic training can be covered and available to all companies. But I want the doctors, i.e. our consultants that we work with, to be able to do what they do best and like to do most and provide their specific skill, knowledge, and ability that their clients require. So they spend their time doing what they do best and what they need to do most. But that was a big bottleneck for me. And it took me, in the spirit of authenticity and openness and transparency, that was a rough awareness process for me, but I figured it out. But it was not easy.
Well, and now you stand in a place to help guide other people who are maybe similarly standing in their own way, that you can say, hey, I was there, that was me, and this is what it took. And maybe hold up a little bit of a mirror so that they can go, maybe there is an opportunity for me here that I didn't see. I think that's phenomenal.
Because I know that a lot of businesses struggle with consistency and execution.
Yeah.
And that eliminated 95% of those struggles as it related to getting consistent, high quality training and tools to our customers who needed it.
And similarly, a lot of business owners find themselves to be the bottleneck in the chief revenue officer or the chief sales officer seat, because nobody knows the products or services the way they do. And so, nobody can close the way they do. Nobody can connect the same way because they don't have the same heart of passion. And so to your point, they can lean into other people, but they can also lean into technology. Now we have, we do have sales agents. We have automated emails. We have,
how do you feel about those? I've got mixed feelings about it. Like, I'm a fan if it's done well.
Yeah.
But when it's not done well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Shep would call it a moment of misery.
Yeah, I think it's a way to warm up your cold market. So if you think about it, typically only 3% of the people you reach out to on a cold outreach are even thinking about this problem or solution that you're your positioning. And so it takes a long time to warm up that interest because this is literally not even on their radar. Right. And so I think that automation, marketing automation and sales automation is really useful in warming up the cold market, right? Where
How do you feel about it once someone's become a customer?
once somebody's become a customer, I think marketing or automation from an email standpoint, I think it's smart to engage your base with email. Email still works and it keeps your company and your brand top of mind, but you don't want to inundate people with sales messages once you're already your customer. What you do want to let them know is, hey, you're using us for this, but we also do this. Right? Cross-selling, upselling, just in general, bringing them more resources. So thinking about email as a value add to your existing customer base. How can I make their life even better if they're using me as a resource already? Are there tools in my tool bag that we as a company should be positioning for their use? Maybe they don't even know about yet.
You say that because the same person I was talking about earlier with the napkin, his name's Alan Minster. He used to always ask, he'd say, have you ever heard your customers say some version of, gee, I didn't know you did that?
100%.
He goes,
100%.
that's where your cross-marketing opportunities lie. And
Yeah.
again, if we go back to the feeling that it's our moral obligation to be able to solve our customers' problems when we have the tools and talent and ability to do that. Now, it's up to them to decide to do it or not, but at least
Right.
I feel an obligation to make them aware that these are resources and tools and strategies that can make the pain go away for a fraction of the cost of an act.
100%. And so to your point, so if you're asking yourself the question, how can I be of more value to this person? Where am I the bottleneck? How could I make this person's life even better? What am I not seeing
Right.
here? Right? Where are my opportunities? I think those are sometimes tough questions to ask because sometimes we don't like the answer.
I was thinking the exact same because people really don't want to hear the answer.
I think that facing, that's the hard work, right? And I think that's where all of the opportunity really lies, is in that willingness to ask some of those tough questions, and we arrive at better answers if we ask different questions.
If a business owner could only focus on improving one system in their company to drive their long-term success, in your opinion, what should that be and why?
One system. Honestly, I think it's their people systems.
Can you expound on that?
Well, it's two-part. It's attracting the right people and being super clear about who they are identity-wise as a company so that they attract the right fits to their culture. And then making it hard to get through the hiring gauntlet, right? They say slow to hire, quick to fire. And so slowing down at the front end of that consideration process and really finding the right people, standing up for the right people. But then once people are in the door, giving them a track to run on. I'm a progress equals happiness person. So I have taken that progress equals happiness formula into every department of my company and created kind of a stair-step career track so that there's little knocks of development and progress along the path, almost like a breadcrumb trail to personal and professional development, so that your people feel valued and they always feel like they're reaching for the next thing. They know what it is and they're going there, right? And it takes people out of stress to kind of have a target. And I think really treating people as your most valuable assets. It's your internal clients that's the gold.
So I'm going to agree with you 100%. And I'm really glad you said that, because earlier we talked about how Tim Ferriss said in his book, 4 Hour Work Week, if what you're doing isn't working, do the opposite. Yeah. And I can't tell you, and you've probably seen this too, but my experience with potential clients and even some long-term customers lately has been, we've got to hire fast and we're losing applicants, and it's churn. And they're so focused on how do we get applicants in here fast? We need bodies. And my mom always said, if you don't have the time to do something right the first time, you're never going to have the time to do it over.
Yeah,
and
that's such a great point.
And when you're talking about employee selection, the people you hire either solve business problems or they create new ones or different ones.
So true.
And you hire in haste, you're going to repent in your leisure. So a lot of these companies out there churning and burning and wondering why they don't have a consistent, healthy work culture that would embrace the type of progress equals happiness type philosophy you're talking about. Well, because those folks aren't going to be there longer than 30 days.
Right. And what is that churn mentality costing you? What is it costing you, Mason? I mean, there's a quality question for you. Back to that single most needle mover system for growth. It's costing you a huge amount of time, a huge amount of personal energy on the part of your team. It's also costing you a lot of money, because to train and onboard an employee, I mean, there's a huge acquisition and onboarding curve, and that has real cost attached to it. And
I can give that to you.
Yeah.
This is an area I have statistics. So when you're talking about hourly level employees, experts say it costs about 16% of their annual salary to replace them. When you start talking about professional level,
Wow.
non-exempt exempt employees, you're talking about 21% of their annual salary to replace them. So if you've got a $100,000 a year manager, you're talking about $21,000 to replace them. If you start talking about executive level positions, you're talking about 150 to 213% of their annual salary to replace them. That adds up to a lot.
Yeah. So just like with customer acquisition and retention, if you can increase that by 50%, or you can keep your customer an extra year, how much does that add to your bottom line profitability, your top line revenue, or your bottom line profitability? Think about it on the employee side. So if you could keep an employee an extra year to 18 months. And I know everybody loves to talk about Gen Z and how they stair step jobs and how they want to, churn themselves. I get it. But even a Gen Z employee, if you could keep them, if you went from 12 months retention to 24 months and you doubled the tenure at your company, you've just reduced your costs for that acquisition by a huge percentage.
I'm gonna throw out a concept for you.
Yeah.
I've felt for years that human resources was the second sales force for most organizations, and that smart companies will spend the time and energy and resources and actually use sales and marketing strategies and tactics and techniques to acquire and retain top talent with the same vigor and intensity that their sales and marketing force goes to gain and retain top customers.
100%. Is that your next book, Mason?
Who knows? But
come on, that is a good book.
But I mean, like, really, if you think about it, again, Alan Mister taught me this too. He said, Mason, take out a piece of paper and draw out 4 columns. The first column, label that decision maker. Who are you targeting? Mm-hmm. Second column, what problems do they have? 3, in the third column, what solutions do you offer? And 4, what are the benefits? And then you fill those out. Now, that's a sales and marketing matrix, but you could use that for employees too.
For employees.
Say the sake of discussion that I'm HR and I want to target interns. So my decision makers, interns, what problems do they have? Well, they don't have experience. They may not have a professional wardrobe of a bunch of suits and stuff. They may not have reliable transportation, etc. Okay, so those are problems that they have. And you could come up with a very long list of problems. Well, what solutions do you offer as a company to that person? Well, guess what? We have 24-hour shifts, so we can accommodate schedules. We're located close to a bus stop. We have casual work environment. So those are solutions to the problems that group of interns might have. And then what are the benefits? Well, the benefits to you are, hey, you get extra pay, you get extra experience, you have whatever it may be. But I really believe when I talk about HR being a second sales force, I mean it. And that's why.
Yeah. Well, we should co-author that book, Mason, because you are singing my tune. And actually, you're making me think, we do persona profiles. We create the target market avatar, if you will, or profile for our ideal clients. And we do that for our client group companies. Like, who is their ideal client? And we typically create 3 ideal personas. Well, what if we did that for ideal employees as well? And what if we did that within departments based on role-based and system-based descriptions? So let's say we have an HR department. Well, we kind of know the profile for a good fit for that HR department, right? And we can kind of map out the characteristics and the personality traits of a good, successful candidate in those roles.
Is it all right if I drop some bomb on you?
Yeah.
A good kind?
A good kind, absolutely.
The good kind. So as part of what we do, I actually have a suite of, like I said, skill, attitude, and personality-based assessment tools. So I can actually literally go into a company and reverse engineer. So I don't have to guess what those profiles like. Like, let's say Purina Mills had 500 reps and we took their top 10%. And I can tell you exactly how organized, how sensitive, how assertive, how flexible. We reverse engineered what it takes to be successful, not only in their industry, but in their company by analyzing their best people. Skill-wise, attitude-wise, personality-wise, and then there is a pattern. Success does leave clues. So then whenever that company or in the future we want to do that, it's like Jim Collins' book, Good to Great, said the most important thing any business can do is get the right people on the bus and in the right seats. But
Yeah.
didn't tell them how to do it, and he didn't give them the tools.
Yeah.
So what
So
would
true.
happen if I go to your business and I say, I do have the tools, and let's take inventory of who you have on your sales team or on your management team. Let's, for the sake of discussion, let's say you got 500 salespeople. Let's take inventory. Who's on your bus?
Right.
Personality
Well, and then
assessment.
you can literally create a recipe card, right?
That's
For
exactly right. I
what
can
are the
reverse engineer
ingredients?
that.
Yep.
I can reverse engineer that. So I know exactly what that pattern of success in your company looks like. So now
Yep.
we know who's on your bus. We know what that seat looks like. And you know how these employees match that seat. So the whole concept of good to great, you got a bunch of people doing a good job. So now take a look at those gaps between what they bring to the job and what the top performers do. And you surround them with people, tools, training, technology, and systems to close those gaps so that good employees elevate and perform at a super high level. Second of all, when it comes time to replace people because of promotions,
Yeah.
then what you do is you slide new people in, but you want to make sure that they are close to the model that you're looking for, because that makes things easier and faster and eliminates unnecessary friction and drama.
I love
This is probably a conversation for us to have offline, but that is possible right now. This can be done
and
today.
that is so cool. And the fact that, I can tell that you have a people-centric, a passion for helping companies really understand this and give them the tools to do this better that's fantastic.
I put it all on video so that I didn't have to explain it to everybody. But so I'll tell you what, a couple more questions, because I really appreciate your time. And, we can pick up and do one of these later too, because that's the nice thing about doing these podcasts is I end up making some cool friends with smart people, and you're going to have an open invitation to pick up on the next conversation where this one left off.
Thank you.
If there was one piece of leadership advice that you've ever received that you think was the most impactful, what would it be? What's the best leadership advice you've ever been given?
I think that how you do one thing is how you do everything. So back to that self-awareness piece. So how are you showing up as a leader? So if you want people to show up a certain way, you have to mirror that behavior. The leadership advice that I was given was basically first look in the mirror, right? Like you can't expect your people to do something different than what you're doing. And so you have to self-lead first. And then the ripple in the pond effect is now you're standing in integrity to say, don't just do what I say, do what I do. And so I think the best leadership advice I've ever gotten is, don't be afraid to hold up that mirror to yourself. And because that comes right back to that other topic we were talking about being the bottleneck in your business, right? And so if we want to be great leaders, we have to believe that people are watching us. They're using us as an example for how they show up in the world. And we have to take full responsibility for how we're showing up first.
So if you were starting a business today with everything you know now and the things that you've experienced over the course of your career, what's the first thing you'd focus on to build momentum fast?
I definitely, honing in on your product, your pricing, your packaging. Number one, what are you bringing to the marketplace? And then getting very clear about who it's for. The number one thing, I talk to companies that have even been in business 30 years and they're still fuzzy on their target market. And I think they have to get super clear. Clarity is king. We like to say around here. And thinking that you're going to be everything to all people, you want to be a meaningful specific to a few people and then go deep in that space.
So I really appreciate your time, and I'm very glad we got the opportunity. I got to make a new friend today, and I got to learn some things.
Amazing.
So it's a win-win across the board.
Yeah.
So how would people that want to know more about you or your company or how you can help them, what are the best ways for them to connect and interact with you? How do they get a hold of you? What would you like them to do?
Yeah, great question. So they can go to our website, diamond-group.co. They can request a meeting with a growth specialist on my team. They can also go to our resources tab. There's a ton of free tools and resources on there, from everything from creating persona workbooks, really getting clear on their target market, to auditing their website, doing an SEO audit. But I highly encourage people to go to our website as a resource and dive into some of the free tools there as a place to start. We also have some great content and, things just to add value to their journey. So I think that's the place to go, diamond-group.co. And then definitely people are welcome to reach out to me directly if I can be a brainstorm partner or I can be a resource, and they can reach me via my support team, and they can email April at diamond-group.co. and they can directly connect with me and my team.
Awesome. It's been a pleasure. Is there any particular social channels that you're super active on?
I love LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is probably my number one go-to, and Facebook and Instagram are second.
Okay.
But those are great places to connect with me. And I'm actually in the process of getting my studio environment kind of together. And I'll be looking for more opportunities just like this to, practice what I preach, right? We were talking about
Sure.
getting out of the sidelines and helping other business owners do that in their own businesses. So I applaud you, Mason. I think that you're doing a fantastic job getting the word out there. And I'm so grateful for the time with you today.
It was a pleasure. And hopefully we'll get together and do this again soon.
Yeah, I would love that. I would love that.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.